Well, guys, after that, I'm honestly contemplating whether or not I actually want to see a third season of this show. Hey guys, carrying around for the season finale of The Leftovers, Season 2, Episode 10, I Live Here Now, and I cannot explain how much I was looking forward to this episode. I mean, you guys know I've loved this entire season. Honestly, this has probably been the greatest season of television I've ever watched. I mean, I can't believe how amazing this season has been. I had no idea it was going to have this finale. All I wanted was a satisfying episode. All I wanted was closure. I wanted them to conclude these storylines. I wanted to see how they were going to end this. And honestly, this was something where this finale could have been shit, and I still would have been satisfied with this season, honestly. I'm being honest with you guys. This finale could have been absolute shit, and I still would have loved the hell out of this season because it's just been great up to this point. And I was a bit worried going into it that this episode was going to be a bit overstuffed, but it was an hour and 15 minutes. And overall, how was this finale? Honestly, this felt like a series finale. It really did. But if you look back at the season 1 finale, it really felt that way as well. Reason being that Damon Lindelof and Tom Perotta are a lot like the writers of Hannibal, Brian Fuller, who every season they want to make it as satisfying a conclusion as possible. Because the end of the season is kind of like the end of a chapter. And Damien Lindelof looks at this literally, he basically wanted this season to be like a chapter book, and this was basically the last chapter where everything comes together, everything wraps up, and you really did see that here. But let's just get into this episode. There's a lot to talk about. So many amazing scenes this episode. Now, was this the best episode of the season? No. Honestly, I don't think it was. I think it was definitely up there with the best ones, but episode 6 and episode 8 are still probably my favorite episodes of this season. However, in such a great season, it's very hard for this episode to disappoint me because it was so great. But let's just get into it. There's a lot to talk about. We see a flashback right away to when the Murphys and the Garveys met and when Evie went with Taylor and Violet, and and when we saw this, I'm like, oh shit, we're gonna see how they got to the GR. And we're remembered about the present that Evie gave to John, and I thought this scene was necessary. Some people said this really was not necessary, but I like that they did this because it's reminding us, oh yeah, the present that Evie gave, John still hasn't opened yet. Oh yeah, Evie didn't actually leave. I think the reason they did this is to make us look at this scene differently. They want us to take this scene and look at it much differently than we thought we did. Because before, it seemed like the car was there and then it just kind of disappeared. And that's kind of what ended up happening. I mean, after Evie gets in the car, we see them drive. They turn the music off to practice not talking, just like we saw in that first episode where we had that scene that, again, I really didn't think mattered much. But Taylor or Violet, I don't know which one it is, but they start crying and Evie dries her tears and tells her not to. They already are writing on piece of paper. That's how far they've already gone. And they go to the lake, they get out of the car, they leave behind their personal belongings and their phones and blast the music on the car to fake their departures. However, the most interesting part of all this, and the most important part, is Evie actually sees Kevin outside with a cylinder block tied around himself. When they're about to leave, Evie sees him, as does Taylor and Violet. He jumps into the lake, then they all walk away. This is when the earthquake occurs that causes the drought in the lake, and I love seeing that because now we know, oh, Kevin knew what happened to the girls all this time, and he hasn't told anyone, which I think is definitely very interesting why he hasn't told anyone. I think he's just had so much in his mind that this has not been his main concern right now. So we then see Kevin being lifted out of his grave at the end of episode 8, of course. That's the last time we left Kevin off. Of course, that he was lifted out, and Michael, of course, is shocked, and Kevin is drinking excessive amounts of water. Obviously, he hasn't been breathing for a very long time. Apparently, it was only 8 hours, though, which is interesting. I thought it was interesting that we found it was only 8 hours. He asks if Patty is still with him, and Kevin says that she's gone. Michael says it worked, and he asks Michael if he buried him, and Michael says that Virgil told him to, and he's gone as well, and he asks him if Virgil guided him, and Kevin says he helped him a lot, and you can tell that Michael really knew what was going on here, which honestly kind of makes me think that the conversation that Michael and Virgil had before Kevin arrived was, is this gonna work? Is this gonna work? Do you really think, that this couldn't happen? I'm pretty sure that John led his children to believe that his father was insane. I kind of feel like that's what this was all about, that Virgil kind of always told John, I can help you in this mysterious way, and John, of course, doesn't believe in magic because he doesn't believe in religion. He doesn't believe in that. He doesn't really believe in something that's just not there, and I think that's part of the reason maybe why John attacked Virgil. Now, am I denying that Virgil could have easily, done something, molested John? I think that is a possibility, but we all see things differently, and I kind of think through Virgil's eyes, he was trying to kind of open up to John and get him to do what he did to Kevin, and that's kind of why I think Virgil ended his life, because I think Virgil's purpose was for people to realize that there is a world beyond ours, and there is a purgatory and things like that, and there is a God and things like that, and he wanted Kevin to understand that because John didn't understand that. And I found that to be very interesting, because why else would Michael and him be talking so much? Why would that? Why would John be so upset? Why would Erica not want him to see him? I mean, it makes perfect sense. That really does make sense why that's going on there. So Michael asks what it was like, and Kevin explains the hotel. Michael asks if he saw Evie there, and Kevin says he didn't, but he saw her somewhere else, and he has to talk to John. And I think Kevin's realizing, you know what, I haven't told John, but I need to tell him this now because I've seen her, and, Kevin's been very lost all season long, physically and mentally. He hasn't really been there. He's been in conversations, but he hasn't really been himself because of Patty, of course. Patty's been talking to him, and now that Patty's gone, he feels like now is the opportunity to tell John what happened to Evie. So John is drinking, and Erica comes down and asks how long he's been up and says there's no coffee in the coffee pot. And this is when you realize this is going to be the first episode this season where there is no perspective. Every scene really isn't someone's perspective, but everything we built up to had all this episode had all the characters in it. Every single character appears in this episode, and I thought it worked really well. You could have easily overstuffed it. An example of that is The Affair, which is the reason I'm not watching the show anymore. It was overstuffed, it was pointless, and it really didn't really go anywhere. Here, we needed to see all these characters. We've built up how they feel about this situation, and there's really no more to build up to. We've seen everything that's happened, and now we need to see their closure. We need to see their closure. We need to see how it ends for them this season, and I definitely thought they did that very well here. So he says there's no coffee in the coffee pot. She takes a sip of his drink. She asks if he's going to church, and he asks why he'd do that. And she reminds him that it's October 14th, and they go to remember, and she tells him to open Evie's present, or she will. And I like that she's finally telling me, you know what, open it up. After everything they've been through, this is the time to open it up. And he says it's his birthday present. He will open it when he's ready. And I was thinking that there was going to be like a message or like a grenade or something in here. I mean, I really didn't know what was going to be in this box, but what's in it I thought was very interesting. Because Erica takes it, opens it, and it's the cricket that John is happy that she found it, and it's the cricket that John was trying to catch. However, Erica says that she didn't she didn't. She said the night she disappeared, she was there the whole night. The cricket was there the whole night while Michael and him looked for it, and it chirped the whole time, and Evie must have found another one because he wouldn't let it go, and I do agree with what Erica is saying. Again, this didn't seem like a big deal. It kind of just seemed like something funny. Him and the cricket, that's what they played as. They played it for laughs. They didn't play it as something that serious, but honestly, it showed that John was kind of losing it. It definitely showed that. Mainly because I think the cricket was actually Evie's phone alert. The phone alert, if you remember, Meg had that phone alert when she was with the GR, when she was contacted by the GR. They contacted her on her phone, and I'm pretty sure that's what that was about with Evie. Evie got a message, and I think that's what that's about, and that definitely is very interesting, that we found this out here, but I definitely like that. I thought that was very interesting overall, and I like how they took something that really wasn't a big of a deal and made it a big deal. They really did that very well this entire season. I mean, they set things up, like that conversation, like, for example, I said it last week, like the joke between, Evie and John didn't seem like a big deal, turned out to be a huge deal, and I love the way the show does that. The littlest of things, and it really shows the littlest things in our life really do matter. Everything really does matter that we say, everything we do, everything matters in the end, even if we don't think it does, and I think they really showed that this season. So he says fuck her, and you really start to see that John and Erica are really on the rocks. In fact, they're so on the rocks and stuff, so that I honestly think that Erica's going to divorce him. I think she's going to leave him. I mean, if this show comes back, I won't be surprised if Erica's gone. I really won't be surprised if that happened. I really feel what happened to Kevin is about to happen to John. I really think it's going to happen. So the park rangers answer the door, tell John that the print at the car that Evie disappeared from, and they tell him although they initially thought he was wasting his time trying to find the paw print, he wasn't, and we don't see what they tell him, but we know that they're telling him that it's Kevin's, obviously. because he gets his gun ready, bangs on the Garvey's door, and he's ready to kill him. He's ready to kill Kevin. But Lori then answers and introduces herself, and he asks her if Kevin's home. If I'd have one complaint with this episode, is that Lori and Jill really didn't have much closure in this episode. Storyline didn't really have much. It did in the sense of, it was really, I thought it was perfect the way they ended it. But if this is the final scene we ever got of Lori and Jill, I do want to see more of that. That's part of the reason why I do want the show to come back. Now, it's not a complaint because I don't know if the show is coming back for season 3. If it is, then great, that they set things up very well between them and kept it open for season 3, definitely. If it isn't, that was a really lousy final way for them to go out. I would have wanted more to see there, and it kind of felt kind of half-assed with them. However, what they do in this episode is great. I mean, like I said, everything we got in this episode was pretty perfect, definitely. It was a perfect episode, just like every episode this season. But I'm just saying, if this is the final time we see Jill and Lori, I would definitely have wanted to see more from them. So he asks her if Kevin's home. Jill comes to the door. John asks if she knows where he is, and she says she doesn't, but she's sure he'll come back, and John asks if she's sure he will. And so Kevin Caroll is so creepy in this scene, honestly. He did a great job. You can definitely tell that John's been holding back his anger, and it's finally ready to come out. Like I said, John just has this ego. It seems like all season long he's had this ego, and finally it's coming out in this episode. So Lori says he definitely is. He comes back home with Michael and Kevin and right there, Michael and Kevin are back, and Kevin asks if the print matched, and John says it did. Kevin said they should talk somewhere. John says it should be somewhere neutral and tells him they'll give him a ride. Kevin assures Jill and Lori everything will be fine. John asks Michael what he's doing, talking to Kevin, and Michael says to listen to what Kevin has to say, and I like that Michael's trying to tell him, look, you can trust Kevin. He's not a bad guy, even though he might have done some bad things, he's not really a bad guy. So Kevin gets into the police car, and Michael sees Jill, walks right past her to his house, and that is the example of perfect, very subtle closure. These two are never really going to be on the same terms. I mean, they were together, they had a thing, but because of just one big difference, the fact that Michael's religion is basically the thing that matters the most to him, that's why these two can never be together. And it's sad, but I really think they're trying to show that Michael and Jill are probably never going to be together. And again, it didn't really seem like a huge deal. It just seemed like, oh, just Jill, Michael, regular relationship. But no, it really is a lot more. Jill wants just a regular relationship. She wants someone that she can have sex with. I don't really think she cares about Michael in the way he cares about her. He cares about his religion, and he doesn't just want to have sex with her. He wants to just be in love with her. That's what he wants. And he walks right past her to his house, and Erica asks where he's been. He says he's been at Virgil's, and she says she thought she told him not to go over there anymore, and he says he won't. He asks her if she's going to church, and she tells him to go inside and get changed, and that really is a great scene for Erica because she hasn't gone to church in a while, and you can tell that she really wanted to, just for cathartic reasons. And Lori sees Erica and waves, and that was a perfect parallel to the first time John and Kevin met when they waved at each other. I thought that was just perfect. I mean, these are two women that are very much close to the same terms. Lori, of course, left Kevin, and Erica is very close to leaving John, and I thought that was perfect the way they showed that. So, and now Lori's back, and Erica's back too. I mean, Erica tried to leave John, and like Lori, is now pulled back in John's life. So Jill walks away from her. Lori says that she's going to have to talk to her eventually. Jill says she doesn't know shit, and Lori says she knows Kevin isn't doing very well as of now. He's got serious problems, and she's sure she knows that too. She tells her how she came looking for Tommy, and he asked for his help, and her help, and Jill says she's not asking for anything. Lori says it's her house, and if she wants her to leave, she will right now. Jill says Kevin said they should stay put, goes upstairs to her room, and I think Jill's realizing that she can't get rid of Lori. No matter what she does, she needs to just learn to deal with Lori. She's never really going to talk to her. She's never going to have a great relationship with her, but she needs to just deal with her. So, I like the way they showed that. But again, I didn't really feel it was the most satisfying conclusion, but it was really great for the most part. In case the show doesn't get renewed for a third season, I thought that was fine overall. Just, I was a bit disappointed because I wanted a bit more there. But again, this episode was an hour and 15 minutes, and there really wasn't more I could ask for. So Lori goes into the guest room and lies down on the air mattress. Lily's crying, and Nora tells Mary to sit tight. She will find her feeding tube, which was great to see Nora again. We haven't seen Nora since episode 6. We did see that little thing from her in episode 7, but finally we saw back in Nora's perspective. Every scene with Nora is in her perspective. She will find her feeding tube, which is right where Matt said it was. She puts on some music for Lily, which at first is the same song that Matt played in his daily routine with Mary, and then turns on talk radio talking about the departure. Nora changes Lily, and Nora realizes the man on the call is very much like Kevin. This I found very interesting. The man on the call is very much just like, how Kevin was with Nora. He wants a new life and a new family, another baby, and is hoping to forget. And the radio host agrees with his wife and says she's not ready. A new baby won't fix how broken his wife is, but Jesus can. And this caused Nora to smash the radio because she knows she's in the same situation. She's like, oh shit, I'm in the same situation. I don't want to be reminded I'm in the same situation. I want to move on with my life, and I don't want to think about the sadness that's been in my life. So there's another bad earthquake, which obviously doesn't stop Lily from crying. She's crying up a storm at this point, and Mary is suddenly awake, and we knew that was going to happen because if you guys couldn't tell, we did see a shot of Mary very much alive, very much not in the trance that she's been in, and that's exactly what happened. Mary's now awake, and we're realizing that, yeah, Matt really did see her, and is it, surreal? Yeah, but that's kind of the point here. It's just, it didn't really seem like it could happen, but it can. That's a lot of what this episode's about. It's like, you don't really think this could happen, but it did, and you need to get over that, and I think this show has done that very well. So she's woken up, she asks Nora what she's doing here, and I like that Mary is very delirious. She doesn't really know what's going on, but she does have all her memories still, and where Matt is, and Nora smiles at Mary being all the way back, and it's such a great thing for Nora. She's wanted this for a while, she's wanted the best for Matt, and she's wanted her brother to be right. She didn't want to think he was crazy, she didn't know if he was telling the truth, but she was hoping he wasn't, and it's just a really great scene. So Matt's shaving in a mirror, still stuck in, the visitor center, and basically, Nora and Mary arrive. Mary speaks, and Matt asks if this is real, and she says it is. He kisses her. He asks her if she's alright. It's such a great scene. They did a great job at not making this cheesy. I was worried this was going to be a bit cheesy, but they really handled it very well here. Mary says she's confused, but okay. Matt then tells Nora she can't be out there. She has to go back to town right now. Mary tells him to go, and he says he can't, but she has to go back to town right now. And he says she has to take her out right now because it's not safe for the baby. And she realizes here that she's pregnant, which Nora did not tell her. And Matt asks her if she remembers the night she woke up, they had sex, and she says of course she does. He explains to her what's going on. Nora says she'll feed Lily and come back in 10 minutes. She knows they have a lot of catching up to do. And they take Mary back, and Nora walks with Lily, as several people are giving her weird looks, being like, and there's this one woman that keeps being like, that's not your child, that's not your baby, just throughout this episode. So then Tommy sees her, and Meg asks if he knows her, and she says she's his dad's girlfriend. Again, Liv Tyler is so creepy in this episode, but did a great job. She says she's his dad's girlfriend, sprayed her with a hose once. She asks him if he's scared for his family, and Tommy says that there is no family, and she asks where he heard that, and he says he thought that was the point. She says it's not family is everything, and tells him they are about to begin. And I think what Meg is trying to say is that the reason she thinks family is everything is because she never really had a real family, and I think Meg is realizing that part of the reason she's so fucked up is because of the way her family life turned out. Her father left, her mother died when she needed her, and she hasn't really been able to move on since, and that really is what's happened to Meg. Again, I'm not justifying what Meg is doing, but I really think that's why Meg is doing what she's doing here. So Rangers tell Meg the park is closed because it's October 14th. It's supposed to be a day to reflect. She asks what they have to reflect on since nothing happened to townsfolk, and it's ultimately pointless. The Ranger says unless she has a wristband or a dispensation form, he's going to have to ask her to turn around. She says she has 35 pounds of plastic explosives and asks if that will work, and she breaks the gate, speeds through in a miracle. Such a great scene. I mean, I had no idea what was going to happen here. The Rangers try to stop her, tell her to get down. She does as asked, and the Rangers cuff her and tell them they have an unauthorized vehicle on the bridge that is possibly a code blue. The GR members come off the buses ready to attack, and Meg smiles, knowing that her plan is going to work regardless of what happens to her. So John takes Kevin to the shelter, and this scene was just so great. Again, The Leftovers does a great job at having so many intense scenes with just dialogue. This is all just, I mean, think about the best scenes of this season. They've all been from just talking, like the question scene. There's no real action there. Yeah, of course, there's the throwing the brick through the wall, but other than that, there's no real action there. It's all done through talking. This is a great example of that. That's why this show is so great. So John takes Kevin to a shelter where they took off his dog, where they took his dog, and John asks which one is his. And I completely forgot about that, honestly, guys. I mean, that seemed like so long ago. And Kevin says he knows they're not to talk about his dog, and John says he tells him where Evie is, and he lets him take his dog home, and he lets him take his dog home, which I think is fair. But of course, Kevin doesn't know where Evie is. He says he doesn't know where she is, but he knows she didn't depart. And John asks what she did then, and Kevin says that she staged it. She and her friends did it to make it look like, and John asks how he knows it, and he says he saw her do it and he didn't remember until this morning. John says he needs the truth. He's not believing a thing that Kevin says, and Kevin tells him that he died, he had a problem. Michael took him to Virgil and said he could help, and John says he wouldn't do that and tells him to prove it. Kevin says Virgil told him what he did to him, and he says he's sorry, and he says he's so sorry. He tells him he did nothing to him, he doesn't know shit, and he tells him to stay focused. And again, this is just John not wanting to face reality, not wanting to face what actually happened, and Kevin clearly does want to help him. Again, a part of me feels like this is all about John not believing in Virgil's magic and things like that. So John's trying to process what's going on, obviously. Kevin says he knows he doesn't think it can happen, but it did. And Kevin says he's right that it can happen there, but he needs him to explain how she loved her family. So why in God's name would she do this to them? And that is a very good, I mean, I understand what John's saying to me. If she supposedly loved her family, why would she do this? And he says he doesn't know, and John tells him to take a fucking guess. He says maybe she didn't love him, and without thinking, John pulls out his gun, shoots Kevin in the stomach, seemingly killing him, and walks out terrified. And I loved that scene. I mean, the whole scene, John's like, what the fuck did I just do? Why did I do this? The ranger tells him what's going on, tells him it's about Evie and he needs to follow them. He sees Evie in the GR. The rangers won't let him through because there's a bomb in the trailer, and obviously that's a legitimate reason. There's obviously a bomb in the trailer that could blow up any time, and John's trying to get Evie's attention, but no use. She's not responding. She's just not she doesn't want to talk to him, obviously. She's just not going to talk. So Nora gets out binoculars and tells Matt she sees the three girls the ones that departed. Matt says they won't be able to get back and they're planning on blowing the bridge. They're all cheering, and again, we don't know what Meg said to Matt in that conversation, but it clearly had something to do about this bomb because he's fully aware of what's going on. He doesn't seem that fazed by it, and I think it's just because that's what Meg said. So they're all cheering. Evie holds up a sign that says 1 hour, and you have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, literally, these characters are risky here. I mean, every single character in this scene could die. I honestly thought they were going to kill off some big characters here, like maybe Nora, Matt. I really didn't know what was going to happen. So Erica and Michael are in church and hear the song that Evie used to sing with her choir, and it's a really powerful scene. Reverend Massey then gives this really great speech that I ultimately feel really symbolizes a lot of this show and a lot of this season. He talked about the 14th and how 4 years ago, everywhere else in the world, they knew something had happened, but they didn't until they saw it. They ran out onto the streets, found each other, and everyone asked the same question, is everyone all right? Is everyone still there? And they were. And then we get this beautiful scene. Again, the littlest of things don't matter so much more than you think they do. And this scene is the perfect example of that. This scene with Michael is not only Michael's best scene, but it changes the way you think of him as a character, and it changes the way you look at that first episode. I mean, that first episode, the Murphys seem like a perfectly together family. Like, they have everything together. There's something that John is hiding, but other than that, they seem really together. And here you realize really not so much. I mean, we've known that obviously Erica wanted to leave John, but this is really where we're realizing the Murphys were very much like the Garveys. I mean, you really do realize that here. So he gives a speech telling the story Erica had told to Kevin and Nora about Evie and Michael as kids with a bathtub, and Michael says that's the story she always tells him, even Evie and Evie laughed to protect her because it's not the truth. And here's the true story. Now, the true story is truly, truly tragic, I have to say. I mean, I was on the verge of tears in scene. I'm not going to lie to you guys. He says that he was the one who turned the water on because Evie was crying so loud and she didn't want her, and he didn't want her to hear it because they didn't know why John was gone or why he did what he did. But she was crying so loud, he turned the water on, drowned her out so she could pretend she was okay. He says nobody disappeared there on the 14th, but they did before and after. He says they are the 9,261, and they are not spared. And I think Michael's really realizing that a lot of this town is fake. A lot of what they've been told about the town, a lot of it's just fake. It's not true. And the Murphys are a perfect example of that. They're really fake. All that happiness they had. When they said we have no friends, I believe it. When they say, you know, these things that sound very dramatic, but then they don't, I really do believe everything they say. And it really, again, makes me want to rewatch the first episode. They keep making me want to do that, and no other show, I think, has ever done that, and that's one of the reasons why I love this show as much as I do, the way it makes you rewatch things in episodes, it's just so great the way they do that. So John bursts into the church, lets Erica and Michael know what happened to Evie. They try to get past the guards. Erica gets past them, runs towards Evie and hugs her, and we don't know what she's saying, and I love that we don't know what she's saying here, because she obviously can't believe her daughter's returned. She's obviously stammering, and it's not really important what she's saying. It's just the reaction that's important. I mean, her seeing her daughter, who she thought was gone forever, she's seeing her again. It really is an extraordinary scene. So Nora sees the whole thing going down with binoculars, and the woman from before continues to harass her about Lily not being hers. She doesn't belong to her. Nora tells her to shut the fuck up. Erica sees the clock and asks them if they're... And this scene with Regina King, again, another Emmy-worthy scene from this episode. Just give her a fucking Emmy. Seriously, I don't care what you have to do. Just give her an Emmy. She sees the clock and asks them if they're really planning on blowing themselves up. Tommy looks at the clock, and everyone starts stripping off their clothes and changing to GR costumes and into GR uniforms. Matt sees Erica trying to stop Evie and her friends, and the ranger tells them all to step back. John yells to Erica, tells her to get off the bridge. Erica asks Evie if she's just going to blow herself up, because if that's what that is, she's not leaving. She's just going to have to blow her up too. And Erica gets into the trailer, and this is very interesting. It's empty. There is no explosives. A buzzer goes off, and they just leave. And I know a lot of people are disappointed about this, but if you really think about it, what was the purpose of the GR? The purpose of the GR, if you remember in episode 9, they told her, we're not here to attack. Violence is not our main thing here. They're there to have them remember. That's what it's all about. They want them to remember. They want them to think civilization is dead, and that's the perfect example of that. Them making this fake terrorist attack and making it seem like something bad is going to happen when it doesn't, really, I think, encompasses that very well. I mean, they're obviously not sane. I'm not justifying what they're doing, but I'm just saying, to them at least, this is their way of saying, you know what, this is how the world is now, and anything can happen at any moment, and we just don't really care. So, it's a really powerful scene. Matt goes after them, and the Rangers tell him to hold the gate, but the GR starts attacking the park rangers, and Erica asks Evie why she's doing this. She doesn't understand, and Evie writes that she does, and, when Evie says that, I mean, I think, yeah, I do agree with Evie. I mean, Erica knows now. Evie was never happy. She faked it. She faked her happiness. She always had these doubts about herself. I mean, not really doubts about herself, but she always felt not content with herself. She always felt like there was something missing, and she never understood what was going on between John and Erica. And that clearly is why she was really upset about it, and it really did break her up. And I like finding out that Evie is not this happy-go-lucky individual that we saw in the first episode. There was a lot more going on with her, and I love seeing that. So she goes to the GR along with Taylor and Violet, and Matt and Erica knows that she's probably never going to see her again. And I was thinking we were going to get the scene where Evie reunites with them, but that doesn't happen here, and I like that we didn't get that here. I think they did that very well, just showing that Evie really is gone. She's not going to come back. So Matt tells Nora they need to go in, and tells Mary they need to get her and the baby back in there. Now is their chance, and asks if she trusts him, and she says she does. Nora tells him to wait. The woman takes Lily from Nora. She runs after Nora, sees the woman, left Lily on the boardwalk, and I honestly thought Lily was gonna die here. I mean, a very, very tragic scene. She takes Lily, and Tommy finds her, gets her and Lily to safety, brings her inside the trailer. He tells her she's safe, and this is such a great scene, because Nora and Tommy have really never had any real interaction. I don't really remember these two having any real interaction at all. If they did in season 1, I don't really remember, because I don't really remember season 1, to be honest with you guys. It's just, I think this season is just so much more memorable and puts itself, you know, so far up besides season 1 that I don't really remember season 1 that much. So, basically, Lily continues crying. Nora just keeps saying that she knows. She says, I know, we're safe. And then we get the awesome conclusion of this episode, because we thought that Kevin was a goner. We really thought he was dead. And then he goes back into the hotel. Back into the hotel from episode 8, same exact way. He crawls out naked. He's in purgatory. He screams motherfucker, realizing he's back, and it's such a funny scene. He's turning on the TV and looks for Kevin Sr. It's still blaring, and he says he's not fucking doing this again. He finds a suit, but instead he doesn't put on the international assassin suit. He can't find it anyway, because that is accomplished. Virgil's nowhere to be found either here, which I like, and he instead puts on his old police uniform, and then gets a call from an unknown man who tells him he's aware of this jurisdiction that isn't his jurisdiction, asks if he's a police officer. He says he is. He says something terrible is happening in the lobby bar to another officer. He's being attacked, and the man thinks they're going to kill him. He goes down. The hotel's much different this time around. It's much more calm, and everyone's sitting around for karaoke. Now, what we find out with this karaoke seemed like a dumb idea, but it really, really worked very well, and I think it was really genius what Damon Lindelof did with this. I mean, again, it really seemed like an idea that could be really stupid, but they handled it very well, I have to say. I really enjoyed the way they handled this. So he sees the man, the one that met him on the bridge, and I knew that we were going to see something with this because remember the last words that man said before he pushed Patty in that well? He said, if you do this, it will change you. And you can tell that, yeah, this kind of has changed Kevin. Everything about Kevin has changed. I mean, he now understands Patty more. He sees the GR in a different way. He just sees everything differently. And the one he met on the bridge asks Kevin if he wants to sing. He says he doesn't. A woman goes instead and sings. He asks the man what this is. The man asks if he knows him. Kevin reminds him of the bridge incident. He says he doesn't recognize him from the uniform. And Kevin asks if he called him. Since he called, there was a cop being attacked. And the man says he's the only cop there that he sees. And I was thinking that this was going to show that Kevin's gone, that he's going to be attacked and he's stuck there. That's what I thought was going to happen. We'll get into that, though. And he says the crowd will turn on anyone if they can't sing for shit, and Kevin tells the man to tell him what he needs to do to get back, and the man asks why he wants to go back. He says it's because he has a family and loves them and still has so much to live for, and the man tells him to be original, because, yeah, this is all that Kevin said all season, all season long. Oh, I have a family, that's why I deserve to get back to them. He needs something different. He needs more than that. And Kevin says it's because he deserves to. And he wants him to tell him how. And he says he already did. And he tells him if he wants to get out of there, all he has to do is sing. And he says he doesn't believe him because it's stupid. And I like that they're acknowledging, yeah, it's kind of stupid. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And the man says the trial's beneath him and too easy. And he asks if he really doesn't want to sing after having to push a little girl down a well. And it's true. I mean, there's some good humor here. I like they try to add some humor here, but it's true. I mean, after he pushed Patty down a well, this really isn't that bad. So the woman who's singing asks Kevin if he to sing, and he goes up and does. He spins the wheel, and I knew the song was going to be very important. I knew the song was going to symbolize what's going on, but Homeward Bound was just perfect. Everything about it was just so perfect. It symbolized it so well. Justin Theroux is an average singer, I will say that. He's not the best singer ever, but he did a good job. He sings and remembers everything he's been through and starts crying in the middle of the song. He's picturing Nora while singing, and this really is his catharsis. I mean, just like he had catharsis with Patty, this is how he's getting over all the bad shit that's happened to him. He's realizing that it really doesn't matter. Now he's done with Patty, everything that's going on with Nora, he can move on from it. And the thing about this, though, is that you don't know if Kevin's going to come back. But then you see that he's alive, he's bleeding badly, but he's back, and he sees the dog and tells him thanks for waiting. He gets out of the shelter, and the town is essentially how it looked when he was in the hotel. And there's a fire, and the visitor center is now the new home for the GR. We're essentially led to believe that the GR most likely did all of this. They torched the town and pretty much destroyed it. So Meg sees him, he asks her what she's doing there. She asks him the same question. He says he lives there now. And I know people were talking about how this very much was like the first season where he gets back and all of Mapleton is on fire, and that very much is the situation with Miracle. I mean, Miracle is done. I mean, I think we're going to see Miracle again next season if there is a next season, but I don't think they're going to spend much more time there. So Kevin walks out, he goes back outside, sees more damage. Meg starts singing the town's anthem, and Evie starts singing along. And what's interesting about this is that Kevin doesn't really feel much tension because he understands the GR more. He understands who they are. He understands what they're doing, and they're really not that much of a threat anymore. So Kevin walks out, he goes back outside, sees more damage, and sees the entire encampment is the one causing all this. Now, something I liked about the anthem between Meg and Evie, one, it was very creepy. Two, it really goes what the GR is trying to say. Everything about this town is fake. No one is spared their town. No one is safe. No, there hasn't been departures, but that doesn't mean they're safe. I mean, they're gonna go through drama. They're gonna go through problems. All of these safety things, it's just bullshit. It's bullshit. It's pointless. And the joke that Evie told John, I think really is just saying that it's pointless in general. Just the town in general is pointless. So, very good scene. I definitely like that. And then we get to the ending here, which was perfect. I love the way this ended. Honestly, guys, if this is the series finale, I can't think of a better ending. I really can't. John looks to Erica, asks if she's in there. John finds Kevin there. He says he killed him. Now, John has no idea where Erica is, and he doesn't find her in this episode, which pretty much leads me to believe that Erica and Michael left him. They packed up and they left, because that would make sense why Erica would leave him. She wanted to, and now that she's found Evie, she can move on. The only reason she was staying with John is because she wanted to look for Evie, and now that she's found Evie and understands what she's going through, it would make sense for her to pack up and leave. That would totally make sense. So John finds Kevin there. He says he killed him, and Kevin says he didn't. John says to let him see the Kevin, to let him see, and Kevin says the bullet went right through him. And John says he should have bled out until he tells John it hurts. He says to let him clean it, which he does. And John cleaning the bullet kind of made me feel like not only is he cleaning Kevin's bullet, he's also cleaning up himself. Like, he's cleaning up himself as a man. He's trying to get away from his corrupted life. And John says he doesn't understand what's happening. Kevin says he doesn't either. They both laugh, and I think this is really them finally coming to an understanding of each other. In many ways, Kevin and John are the same man. Yes, John is a lot more erratic than Kevin, but do you guys remember Kevin from season 1 freaking out about his shirts, freaking out about the littlest of things? Very much how John was, and I think this is just them coming to an understanding of each other, understanding who they really are, understanding there are a lot of things that are just not making sense, and they need to just deal with it. Just deal with it, understand it, and that's really what it's all about. So Kevin tells John it's going to be okay. John helps Kevin walk back home. John asks what if there's nobody home. He says if there's not, then he is to come over to his house, and John really is a part of Kevin's family because, again, Kevin really does understand him. So they give each other one final wave, and that was just perfect, showing the first episode. I love that. One final earthquake happens, and Kevin then goes back inside, and his entire family is back together. And I'm not just saying, like, Nora and Jill. No. Mary and Matt are there. Lori is there. Tommy is there. Everyone is there. And it's just such a great scene because what does Kevin want to do this entire season? Get his family back together. Start over, begin again. This is how they begin again. They've been separated all season long, and now they're going to begin again. Now they're going to do this as a family. How can they move on? And Nora's happy to see he's home, and Kevin cries, and that's how the episode ends, and possibly the end of the series. Now, there are a lot of things that make me think I do want this to come back for season 3, but the ending of this episode, I really think is the perfect send-off for the Garvey family. Honestly, guys, if we do get a season 3, I kind of feel like we need to not deal with the Garvey family and focus more on the Murphys, specifically John. John very much, I think, is going to be a huge point of season 3. Not that he wasn't this season, but John, I think, is going to be even a more bigger part of season 3. I think John's whole thing is, do I understand Kevin? Am I going to understand the man he is? Can I accept him into my family, even though he's so different from me? Even though he's clearly a lot more, intellect than I am, even though he understands the world a lot more. And I'm not saying John is an intellect. I think he's very smart, but I think Kevin just has something that John doesn't, and I think John understands that, and I think it's very interesting to see if these two are going to come to an understanding of each other. Also, did Erica leave John? That's my other big question. I'm pretty sure that she did. Also, Lori and Jill, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there, and Tommy as well when this season does come back. But Damon Lindelof said that he really doesn't want to make a third season because he doesn't know if he can top this season. However, he says he is in talks with HBO currently, so we don't know what's going to happen. And honestly, I'm fine with not knowing what's going to happen. The season has just been that great that I don't need to know, is there going to be a final season? I don't need to know that. I don't need to know there is going to be a final season, that there's not going to be. What the details are is what they are. What happens is what happens. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. Just like how the men in the town are dealing with what's happening, that's how I'm dealing with what's happening. Do I even need to say how I felt about the season? You guys know, this season is by far the best show on TV. Guys, this is going to be my number one show. I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is my number one show for 2015. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's probably going to be my number one. I was never more into a show this year. I've never gotten so invested in a show in my entire life. Such an amazing season. What they were able to do with this season, every chapter felt like a chapter book. I mean, it really did feel like, it didn't feel like episodes. It felt like chapters of a book, and I love that, and that's really what Damon Lindelof wanted to do. And I really didn't realize that till Damon Lindelof said in an interview that we're basically just pretending that Tom Perotta wrote a second book, and this is how the second book would play out, and I think it definitely is very interesting. But overall, guys, an amazing finale to an overall amazing season. I loved every minute of it. There were so many amazing things about this finale. I love that it was an hour and 15 minutes because we wouldn't have gotten some really great scenes that we did. We probably wouldn't have gotten the whole Kevin thing. That definitely would not have happened. But Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Do you think this works as a series finale? I think it does, but I do want the show to continue, obviously. It's an amazing show. I know it's not getting very good ratings, but when did HBO care about ratings? They've never cared about ratings. I've never seen HBO actually care about ratings. I've never seen that happen. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. I loved every minute of it. Such an amazing season. What do you think's going to happen with John next season? What do you think's going to happen next season in general if it does come back? And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Fargo, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.